Let's talk about your song and dance. Literally. I grew up in a social welfare housing project. Around age 11 or 12, it dawned on me that it wasn't the greatest place. I read about those rock stars in the magazines in the supermarket checkout line and eventually came to believe that that would be my ticket out. I received a cheap guitar as a gift and I actually started to practice. Every time I met someone who knew something on the guitar, I asked him to show it to me. Eventually, I got myself a cheap electric guitar and converted an old tape recorder into an amplifier for it. The distorted sound encouraged me even more. My parents were divorced and could not pay for music lessons. So I would just practice on my own and draw thousands of pictures of me performing on stage. Eventually, I became a decent guitar player and singer and performed with various bands. I became better and better at playing guitar, even without lessons, simply because I continued to see it as my ticket out. Eventually, probably around age 20, it occurred to me that many people had paid attention to me because I was a good guitar player. Most relationships that I have had in my life began with me playing guitar and singing songs. There's a lesson for you, and it will be repeated. To get to the attractions in the promised land, you need to have the artistic touch. Some call it game. I am not necessarily telling you to learn guitar or piano or take voice lessons, but if you are an artist, you will get to where you want to be much quicker, and the choices will be greatly increased. And this applies to men and women. You may think, well, this is just another talking head, right? Talk is cheap. Consider this. Did that change your point of view? What you just felt is called a paradigm shift. If you always wanted to play an instrument and you have strong images associated with it, such as you being the rock star with all the girls being at your feet, or you as the classical piano soloist playing at Carnegie Hall, then it is never too late. What is it worth to you to play the piano or any other instrument for that purpose? How much would you pay if you could play right now? Maybe $5,000, maybe $10,000. You take that money, you set it aside, you get a teacher and spend that money in music lessons, starting immediately. It takes an adult longer to learn a musical instrument than it takes a child. One of the reasons is the fact that an adult's brain is essentially full. All parts of the brain are already being used. To learn a new skill, the brain needs to make some room and reconnect the synapses. Thanks to the brain's neuroplasticity, it is nevertheless possible to learn a new skill as an adult. In fact, you should do just that to slow down the brain's decline as you age. Studying music is a great exercise for your brain, as it teaches you manual dexterity in both hands and uses a variety of areas in the brain. It also gives you one more small talk topic at any party. You won't have to talk about the weather anymore. There are shortcuts, as long as you accept the fact that you probably won't be the next Paganini. You don't need to. There are self-study programs on DVD that teach you many tricks. Finally, you're never too old to start. When I was in my teens, I played in a rock band. Our lead guitarist was in his early 20s and had only been playing for a year or so. He had been fascinated by rockabilly music, that one day he went out, bought himself a $3,000 Gibson guitar, a fur jacket, and cowboy boots, and resolved to study the guitar, and boy, he did. His motivation was very strong because he had this vivid image of himself as the wild rockabilly guitarist that he eventually became. He became the most incredible guitar player I know personally. My piano teacher has a student who started in her early 80s. The curious lesson of all of this is that you get out of life what you put in. I spent years teaching myself to play music. My parents couldn't afford music lessons, so it took me much longer than necessary, but I did it. Was it worth spending endless hours alone practicing? In the time that I spent learning music, I could have watched 16,254 episodes of Star Trek and General Hospital. Now imagine if I had in fact spent all that time watching TV, what would it have gotten me? Probably a flat butt from sitting so much and a big midsection from eating all that fast food in front of the TV. Instead, music has gotten me more love and affection than anything. The efforts that you put into your life will pay off manifold. It goes without saying that it doesn't have to be music for you necessarily. Many people would rank dance as the #1 aphrodisiac, and probably any talent that you develop will serve the purpose. You can probably impress people by training hamsters to perform circus stunts.